Uh, do I want to watch this? Is it just some random guy? Well, everybody's some random guy, I guess. I am a random guy.
Persona 5 The Phantom X is really taking its time to release outside Asia. Actually, even its server in Japan hasn't fully released yet following its closed beta. You would think that given its popularity,
closed beta?
Persona 5X would have a simultaneous worldwide release instead of a slow regional showcase. Granted that this game was meant to cater to mobile players, especially the gacha community, which are big in East Asian countries like China and South Korea. But would it not be better if Persona 5 The Phantom X come to global sooner rather than later? Well, obviously, but why is it taking too long for P5X to release globally? One of the main reasons is that they are testing
Is it though? Sometimes when something is released too fast, it's actually bad, right? Especially if you gotta translate.
the market demand for the Persona IP. Sega, Atlus, and Perfect World selected these regions to gauge whether or not people would spend gacha money on Persona characters and its urban fantasy.
I think here's the thing, but one of my friends is telling me this, and I somewhat pretty agree. When it's come to phone game, the English region are much more risky compared to the Asian region, like the Chinese or like the Japanese and like the Southeast Asian region. They're way more chill in terms of a gacha game. But when it's come to North America, when it doesn't do right or it feel really gacha-y, like they get really angry. Might be a reason why they take longer time to do it. Maybe that's what he's gonna say. I don't know.
Setting. This allows developers to assess the game's success and gather player feedback before committing to a broader release, since keeping an online game running is quite expensive, more so for gacha games that consume astronomical amounts of time and resources. Take Hoyoverse, for example, which updates their games every 40 days. Their additional content per patch includes
What?
and resources. Take Hoyoverse, for example, which updates their games every 40 days. Their additional content
What, every 40 days?
amounts of time and resources. Take Hoyoverse, for example, which updates their games every 40 days.
I have no idea. I mean, my accent is just like much worse, but yes, I don't.
Their additional
I'm not sure.
content per patch includes new characters, locations, stories, weapons, enemies, and minigames, among others. Think of it as them creating a story DLC in a span of less than 2 months. Not to mention
What is this happening to do with the English release though? The game is all, they already have all the story, the thing and everything. They just didn't have the translation.
what is needed to market these updates. From showing how amazing this character is, enticing the players to pull for them, what awaits them in the story patch, and how fun the upcoming events are, and of course, most especially, how many pulls it will give them. So what's Persona
Isn't all of that already been done by the Chinese version? They just have to translate it.
5X truly successful in these regions? Yes, but there's a problem. Persona 5X did launch with amazing numbers, debuting with a revenue of $12.1 million, seizing the 10th spot among the gacha market in Sensor Tower's revenue report for April 2024. However, in the following month, P5X went down 22 ranks and earned $3.55 million worldwide.
Isn't that super normal? I think we talk. I think we talked about this before.
And earned 3
Like it dropped a lot, but that's just like a normal case for gacha. At least that's what most people are saying in the comment when I talk about this, and I somewhat can agree with them. I didn't really check that deep though, but it does make sense that like the first, after the release of the first week, right, people would rush in to try the game out, and then you would have the big initial drop in the beginning, and then after that you see who's left, and then it becomes stable. Like it's kinda not really good way to assess that the game is failing from just looking at the big drop in the beginning, because like every game gonna have a big drop in the beginning.
$3.55 million worldwide. That is such a steep decrease, but again, it's nothing to.
Is it though? Like that's the thing. Did you compare it with anything else? I mean, I don't know. I'm not the one doing the research, but if I were to like talk about this super serious, I probably would check if that is actually a big steep drop than what compared to other things, because maybe the percentage is actually closer than you might believe.
And earned $3.55 million worldwide. That is such a steep decrease, but again, it's nothing to worry about, since other gacha games tend to see a decline in revenue after its initial release.
See, he said the same thing. So wait, why you present? He sort of presented it and I'm like, oh, it's a big steep, and then he just like, oh, it doesn't matter. But I guess
that earned almost 100 million upon its release also went down to 31.5 million the following month.
100 million to yeah, that's 70% drop. So yeah, That's yeah.
Now, it might seem
What
low,
we
but
just
it's still a
said.
performance that would spell EOS for P5X. And while Persona IP is globally known, that doesn't mean that it can compete with Hoyo Games numbers, considering the fact that
It doesn't have to though, right? It just have to make its own money. Doesn't have to beat Toyo worse.
more popular series like Naruto and Dragon Ball, their gacha games can't also make those figures. Apparently, only the husbandos can. But it is concerning that such
Wait, how much money did those make? I want to play those. Oh, so it's actually went upward after the first months. No, this is probably in genuine too. I could be wrong. Usually in November, money usually is like this, and in the December money, people spend money. The number of money people. Jesus Christ, sorry. The amount of money people spend during December surge much higher than November because of the holiday at the end of years.
But it is concerning that such a popular IP is only doing this
And then it drop again in January, but makes sense, right? Because they already spend all their money.
much. Granted, it is not new for existing IPs turn to gacha to go offline before reaching their anniversary. One major reasons why these known IP gachas fail is because they are poorly made and was intended to be a
Yeah, that's probably true. I mean, yeah, a lot of gacha is kind of crap, especially. I mean, a lot of them are just gonna rely on the franchise power, right? Like the IP power and not the game
cash
itself.
grab in the first place. But looking at how amazing P5X plays, Black Wings Game Studio really did their best to translate the Persona system into the gacha space. So it, being a soulless cash grab, won't be the reason for its end. However, another reason why a lot of existing IP gachas fail is because they are region locked, which is the exact state of Persona 5X right now. Bearing in mind, China is the best region when it comes to funding gacha games, but a global release tends to ignite the title. And it's not unheard of for gacha games
Is that true? It failed because of the region lock? I wonder. I'm not sure how the money distribution work. Like, if it's region locked, but then technically to keep the server up in those regions, separate region, it's the responsibility of the publisher. I would assume, not the developer. I guess it's go from case to case.
to find financial success outside the whale.
What I'm trying to say is that, like, you know, unless Blackwing Studio is the sole publisher for every single region, then all they have to care about is just the region that they publish, right? Because that's the money that they control. They don't control the distribution of other region. So
Whale region. Hence why Persona 5 Phantom X needs to come to global sooner than later. But before that though, if you want to see Atlus announce a global version of P5X, then hit that like button and join the Talk to Find for more
is this the entire video? Oh, okay.
Persona content. Persona 5 The Phantom X needs to release globally, not just to increase the revenue. I mean, just look at that December earnings. P5X is only 11 ranks above Tower of Fantasy, who's seeing the end of service. But among others, a global release for P5X can surely fill the void for a lot of fans who are eagerly waiting for Persona 6. So for the meantime, being able to play P5X is a good way to keep the fans engaged in the Persona franchise. Of course, P5X releasing globally won't stop the flood of jokes about Sega Atlus milking Persona 5. It is a wise business decision to keep the fans engaged with your product. And with P5X being an online game that can be accessed virtually by anyone with a mobile phone once it releases globally, then it will be a great way to further market the brand, especially for people who haven't played a Persona title. They can finally get a taste on how the game feels, which is mostly dating and fighting world-ending deities. Now, while the game is a Persona 5 spin-off, it does have its own unique gameplay, and some of P5X mechanics can be adapted to Persona 6 if done right. And since this is an online game that receives regular updates, Blackwing Studios are bound to add more gameplay mechanics that suits the series, like some of their side games, be it a rhythm game or being able
No rhythm game. Yeah, I know there is a lot of mini game, but damn, I'm actually kind of hating those. I wonder if I'm forced to play them.
to bond more with the social link members. But the most exciting mechanic that they have is a Persona Duo system. Granted, I don't think mainline Persona games would adopt this, since it makes S-Link members who are not Persona users become playable by, well, giving them a Persona through Wonders DMC Special Cognition. And the great thing about this being an online game is that players can freely voice their opinion. Fans' feedback about P5X's gameplay can help Sega Atlus gauge as to what they have to implement to their future Persona titles. Do players enjoy this type of gameplay mechanic? Then let's add this. Is this section too annoying? Then let's redesign it. In that way, we may be able to avoid dungeons like Okumura's. It's basically a goldmine of their fans' interest and game behavior. So if the players can have a go of this mechanics globally, then it can reshape the game to be more enjoyable for everyone. Of course, doing all of this can also induce fatigue for the Persona brand, especially if fans feel like P5X is an overextended attempt to capitalize on Persona 5's
Fatigue for Persona brand? I think Persona brand itself is probably not going to be fatigue. But I think I am not, but people, yeah, for sure, people are getting bored of just keep seeing they're making more version of Persona 5. Yeah, I think they can be fatigue of the single number of Persona, but not the actual franchise. I think people are really ready just to see the next thing.
success, which is actually what's happening given that globally fans can't access the game yet, so most of us are left with our own imagination as to what really is their intent with P5X. And Sega Atlus wouldn't want that kind of perception in the dawn of the rival of Persona 6, hence why P5X should come sooner rather than later. Another thing is that a global release can help P5X in the mobile market. Sega Atlus would not want to release Persona 6 in the wake of P5X's failure in the gacha landscape, since that is very damaging to the brand
What if that freaking cutscene? He just like
Sega
kneeling.
Atlus would not want to release Persona 6.
Actually, I know exactly what happened in this cutscene. It looked freaking funny anyway. Like it's no, she's just like like hunchbacking. I'm just gonna leave.
In the gacha landscape. This is damaging the brand's reputation and
What's
marketability. As of
going
now, the Persona
on?
brand is among the best-selling JRPGs, not to mention that its titles are all critically acclaimed. Sega reported that the Persona franchise has sold 23.5 million copies, and Persona 5 contributed 10 million units in that number. So P5X failing is not a good way to follow up that historical feat. Thankfully, a global release can help its performance in the gacha landscape, as the gacha game can tap into new and larger audiences and leveraging on Persona's global popularity. Of course, Western audiences can be more critical of gacha games, since many are known to take advantage of players' fear of missing out and gambling tendencies. Thankfully, P5X
Yeah, for sure. I think that's the biggest part. As in, like, yeah, I feel like that's why they take their time to kind of think of how they want to plan out the promotion and stuff for the game, because the Western audience is just much harder to be accepting of the gacha.
is actually Oni friendly.
I think there's like a big chunk of people who, despite how good the game is, as long as the gacha genre is like garbage to them, which is really fine if they think that way.
Their side being generous and
It's not for them, and they don't really have to play it. Nobody have to play something they don't want to play.
pools for the characters without spending. They even have chests for pools. Now, the most concerning problem is the gate is slowly closing for the best release date, for them to really maximize on everything. More so with a successful launch of Persona 3 Reload as well as Metaphor Refantasio. The more they have localization delays, the more that its market return would diminish. Not to mention that delaying the global release further can leave an impression that international fans are seen as second priority, which could harm the goodwill that Sega Atlus have cultivated. Add to that, historically speaking, there aren't any good things that happen to online games that have a huge gap among regions, since these games tend to suffer more from the likes of story spoilers being posted on the social media, rapid update for global catch-up tend to cause massive fatigues among players, and even progression that causes late arriving players frustration, and balanced community engagement since players have a huge disparity on the stories, characters, and events. Ultimately, the delayed content pacing leads to inconsistent experiences across regions, further alienating players. So a timely global release for Persona 5 to Phantom X would capitalize on the franchise's massive popularity, engage a worldwide audience, and ensure that the game remains competitive. And lastly, it would look absolutely great for Sega Atlus' winning streak. Instead of being another one of those, why is that game taking too long? Which coincidentally is happening to one of RGG Studios' beloved series. Where is Judgment 3? Well, if you're curious about that, then check this video out. Join the Find for more Persona.
Cool. No, I'm sure we probably will see something from P5X this year. And to be honest, if Midori was right about Persona 6, then we should also see a teaser this year for Persona 6.